Yeah. So thanks for returning the call back.
Of course, of course. So let me just pull up here the information that I have for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
Um,
When you sent that email, I started laughing. I thought it was an April Fool. Honestly, I thought it was an April Fool's joke.
right. Well, it's one of those things where, I personally, I don't conduct the interview, right? So
I
I'm
know
just
you
kind
don't.
of the moderator of everything that happens because obviously I'm not the subject matter expert. So I'm more the moderator. I do the introductions, as you witnessed. So the people that we select are people that work in the field who are either doing this role at the city.
Yep.
Obviously their feedback,
I can't hear you because you just went echoed now.
oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, you went off speaker or something.
Oh, sorry. So, like I was saying, as you witnessed, I'm just the moderator. I welcome you in. I check your ID. The people that we select to conduct the interviews are people currently working in this field at the same level or higher. And those are truly what we call our subject matter experts, right? So we rely on their feedback and their observations for the outcome of the interview. So, I'm there, but I'm not actively giving my feedback because I know I wouldn't be the right candidate for that. So, for the information that's provided, so I'm just pulling them up right now. So I
Yeah,
can.
well, I'm trying to figure out what they rate people on because I've been hauled many times. For the past 13 years, I've been hauled in these city interviews and then come up short every time. So to me, it's frustrating when you've received no
Mm-hmm.
feedback, and then the people that are being hired are the people that can't do the job. And then people ask me what, like the stories about the collapsed buildings are asking why aren't you getting hired in building departments, and I have to present that as evidence. And news reporters love getting their hands on that because it blows up, because they think stuff, when they're hearing that, they wonder what's wrong with the city. Why would I bring my business here? You know,
Right.
to me, it frustrates me on no end, and then when I ask for the feedback, I never get it. So that's why, you know, and then you wonder, okay, what are you rating me on? And a lot of them won't tell me, and that gets me upset because I don't know what they're rating on. I don't know if there's bias, so I
Mm-hmm.
have to assume there is when somebody doesn't tell me a fact. When you get things like, well, we can't tell you, it's against our policy, that doesn't help me. And then I tell other
Mm-hmm.
people, why should I apply for a city job when city when mayors and politicians and city folk are going on TV saying we can't find employees, and then they hear my story, it's like, why would we give you money? Seriously.
Right.
They don't want to give
Yeah. No.
money. They don't want to bring their business
And
here
I
either
understand.
because they look at it differently. They're like, well, you can't figure out how to hire employees. What makes you think they know what they're doing?
Right. Well, there's limitations at least at my level of what I can share, but I'm happy to share. I can share you the three areas that all candidates, the how we evaluated them. So all candidates that went to the same interview were evaluated on three different areas, and like I said, I'm happy to share what those three criteria and kind of an overview. Obviously, I can't read verbatim what they wrote, but I can give you kind of a nice summary. They didn't write a lot, but I can give you that. So the three areas that all candidates, such as yourself, were evaluated on were technical skills. So the knowledge of the principles and practices of the position of plan check review, and the ability to read, interpret structural plans, and learn about California building standards. So obviously there was a test involved that you also took. The second one is your interpersonal skills, so the ability to develop and maintain effective working relationships based on the scenario questions that were asked. And the last criteria was your communication skills, so just overall how the ability to express your ideas clearly and concisely to the raters that conducted your interview. So for the technical, they did state that you had, good technical background. They did notate that you had been a structural engineer for private firms and with long-time experience. They did notate that while you were very confident in your knowledge, that they did not see any plan review experience, or that you did not have enough or knowledge of operating a public counter, because this position is a little bit of a hybrid. Not only is it a plan spec engineer one, but they would only also be assisting at the counter. And I know that's probably not.
That's not
city
true
is
either.
different.
For me, I've been on TV a lot, so interacting with the public, that's not true because there's TV footage. So that's not true either. You know what I'm saying? When somebody evaluates and when there's evidence, publicly available evidence, doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Well, they wouldn't know that, right? Their feedback that they're providing you is based on the interview they had with you. I don't think they're knowledgeable of you having, recordings or, so again, this is based on the interview you had with them at that present time, May 30th. So again, there wasn't negative feedback, but just that's their observations. They also notated for your interpersonal and communication skills. Just again, that you mentioned that you're not afraid to talk to people in public. You had experience with that. I think they notated that other candidates just showed a higher level of interpersonal skills. Again, I don't have much more to give you that because that's all they submitted. For communications, they put during the interview, Michael emphasized his ability to listen and communicate with others, without without being able to assist anyone in the public without being offensive. So you demonstrated that you have the knowledge of that. But their other note was that other candidates had presented, better communication skills. So again, that really sums up their full feedback from the interview. So it's based on those three criteria that I mentioned to you. Other than that, I wouldn't have any other feedback that I could provide because I wasn't in the room with you. Again, it's only subject matter experts.
I have a question for you.
I just kind of collect the data and present it to you.
What would make somebody excellent at communication skills?
I think for me, most importantly, it's listening. So being able to, and again, I'm not speaking of you. You're asking me if I would be an evaluator. When I do become a rater, I'm listening to how the person, attentively listens to the question. Are they able to ask? Are they able to answer the question fully from start to finish? Sometimes we ask questions where we ask candidates to walk me through a process of how they would do X, Y, and Z. And I have found that many candidates do not do that. They just kind of get to the end, but they don't listen to the instructions, which is walk me through your process. So again, I'm not saying this is you, but I evaluate communication that way. Are they able to follow instructions? Did they truly answer the question? Did they satisfy the nature of what we're testing you on? So that's how communication skill scoring is based on.
Yeah. And what would an excellent response be for interpersonal skills?
I think, so that one we based it on certain questions that are asked. So I think they're the scenario questions. So based on your response to when you were given a scenario question, how you answer that, how you problem solve with others, whether it's at your level or at a higher level.
Okay. Do during this process, do people get told do the raters get told what constitutes an excellent, like let's say communication skills? Are they told? Yes or no?
There is a guy that is sent to them for them to review this, like what we're looking for. So, I mean, they review all that, and these are people that they're doing this constantly.
Well,
so
I do it constantly too.
They're hiring managers themselves.
Yeah, I do it constantly too, but it didn't help me. That's why I go on TV,
right.
Because you guys, government agencies, don't see my value. Apparently, that's why I go on TV and broadcast it now, because you guys don't want to see it. Years ago, somebody told me I wasn't qualified to be an engineer at a job. So what I did years ago, there was a TV station who investigation of a structure that was falling apart, and the state agency told me I wasn't qualified. And when the TV station went to get the records, their nice email telling me I wasn't qualified to be an engineer blew up in their face. And it cost the DOT director was forced out as a result. And that got put on air, that they actually put that in email. That was put on air. And it blew up in their face. It's to me, you have to look at it in my perspective too. If you're telling me I can't do something, and I broadcast it to everybody I see, that's going to blow up in somebody's face. And then attorneys get a hold of it too. Another example in my life was where I was told I wasn't qualified to review building plans. And last 2 years ago, there was a guy that lost his house. And it slid off the foundation. And he found out through public records requests that the city wasn't doing their job hiring adequate reviewers. And the email where the HR person told me that I wasn't qualified made it into court documents, and the city ended up paying that homeowner $5 million. And a lot of people at that city were very pissed off because I kept raising what they said to me. And people, when they think of a city, they say, hey, I'm not going to come, if this is the way they operate the city. And they do things differently too. For example, when a city treats me badly, I don't do business with them, period. That means I go to retailers and tell them, don't stock this product. You're funding a bunch of idiots. And they do it. The woman that told me I wasn't good at structural engineering, her husband lost his job because the retailers pulled his product off store shelves. I've been interviewed multiple times, and a lot of times it's just, I've got another question. Does DEI have anything to do with it? Like, if you're a veteran, do you get more points? Or if you're a minority or a woman, do you get more points?
No, not for that. The only thing is we do have, if you state that you're a veteran, when it comes to the scoring, if you do pass the oral interview, there's additional points that are awarded to you if you're a veteran or as active member or veteran. But that's about it. Okay.
Different states do different things, so I didn't know what yours was, so I didn't want to put words in your mouth if it wasn't true. And I'm trying to figure out what else to do here, because I've been interviewed for multiple government jobs, and they're hollering on TV, we can't find them, and just not getting hired. And I've decided, at this point, not to care anymore. When you've been having this happen for 12 years, you don't forget it. When they don't tell me how it's rated, when I took my engineering licensing exam, they at least tell you how the exam's being rated. There was no subjective. And this panel that they did for my interview, when they wrote, I'm not qualified to review building plans, that's actually, in courts of law, that would be slander, defamation, because I have the certifications to prove it. So, that's what I'm saying. When you say something that's not true, and there's publicly available records to back it up, that's a problem to me. Just like somebody told me, I'm not qualified to review building plans. Not qualified to design buildings, and I have the license for it.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't, didn't say that on this one. I know you're sharing with me what has happened in the past, but I don't think that's the case here. I don't think they declare that you're not able to do this or that. I think they just, based on the overall pool, they just kind of, at the end of the day, we only have one position, right? So they're looking to find the best fit, the fit that would fit for this position. And, I did notate, I know you mentioned to me during your interview that you had applied before. So I took the liberty to look back kind of just at your previous history. So I do see that you applied for the same position back in August of 2021. It was noted here that you voluntarily withdrew from the
because I had a job at the
interview.
time. You guys,
right,
I drove down. You guys weren't fast enough,
Yeah, no, that's true. That is government. So we do look at the communication, and I know you've applied to other positions here. So I mean, that's, as I said, that's the only feedback that I actually have that I'm really able to share with you.
Yeah.
Well, I know that doesn't change anything for you.
No,
but,
I just wanted to see how it's being scored, and I don't want to blame. I didn't want to say something that wasn't true, because it does nobody any good. When I tell people how is it rated, and I get, well, we can't tell you. To me, that's a big, because later there's one now, like City of San Jose, where I am, they're using it in lawsuits now. Because we've had a lot of bad city employees. One was a firefighter that got to keep his job for using the fire truck to escort a stripper. And that guy got to keep his job. And the city of San Jose tried to hide it. And I reminded people the way I was treated during the interview process. They couldn't tell me, their thing was, quote, well, you don't have certain qualities. And I said, okay, what are those? Well, we can't tell you. To me, that's a red flag. Because if you're telling me I'm not qualified, and I don't know what you're quantifying. So to me, it's just putting it in the way you hire people is, the way they hire people is based on, they just draw a name out of a fishbowl.
Yeah.
And then they get, and that doesn't do me any good, because people are going on TV saying we can't get our building plans reviewed at all. We have a 9-month backlog. I'm sorry. I just don't trust people anymore. I just don't. I've had enough horse crap with bosses. I've had enough with government agencies. At a time I trusted government employees. I don't anymore. I'm sorry.
Right.
You have to see it from my perspective too. When somebody tells me I'm not good at something and I know I'm good, I make people look stupid. I broadcast it, make people look stupid, and they don't like it. So you got to approach it from the way I'm seeing this. When you wrote, I don't have the minimum for reviewing building plans. When you wrote that email, and you didn't check facts, that says a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, in my defense, I didn't write that. That's a template that I send out to all candidates. But I hope at least you could see that, normally you're right. Most agencies will not provide feedback, will not share material. But I at least tried to give you something. I did have to go to my supervisor to let them know about your situation in your email. So I did ask that I could at least share the information that I shared with you.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, your supervisor, for doing the right thing. I want to say that. So it's not like it, because I wanted to see this for myself. If there's something wrong, when I don't want to call something a black box when it's not true. And people like me remember when they don't do their job. When somebody doesn't do their job, I remember, it stays with me.
Right. Well, like I said, this is actually the most information we've actually provided any candidates We did want to take the time with you and like I said, go over the stuff I could go over with you. Again, while I know it doesn't change anything, no. But I hear you. I understand your frustration. My job is to see it from both perspectives, right? While I understand what our candidates go through, I also have, I also represent the city, but I do hear both of the sides, and all I can do is share the facts that I have, and just encourage you to, if this is something you want to continue to, continue to apply, maybe a different role. I don't know what capacity.
Yeah. Well, I've applied for so many roles I've lost. I'll be honest. I've applied so many roles I've lost track, and I've learned even being the top candidate doesn't get you hired either.
Right.
When you're going on, when I hate these building departments, they're going on TV. We can't find anybody to review our building plans, and then they're pulling this stuff. To me, it's a slap in the face. Here's my thing. Don't go on TV telling people you can't find people to do the work, and then having a bad interview process, number one. Number two, have one that's a clear interview process.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But this is at least
I hear you, Michael.
This is a start
I
at least. This is a start at least, and I'm trying to figure out what else I can do, and I'm just frustrated to no end,
Yeah, I mean, it's a very competitive process. Me personally, it took me years to be able to get my role, so I'll tell you as someone who personally has gone through it. It wasn't, maybe for others, it's the first time they apply and they get it. It wasn't the case for me, so I can relate with you and I understand. So there you go. So you're not alone. You're not alone, Michael.
No, I'm just kind of getting sick of applying for jobs, honestly,
Yeah.
And this has been very productive, so I learned something today, and this was good to do, so.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it so much.
It wasn't a waste of your time, so
it wasn't a waste of the time.
As much as I could.
Well, it wasn't a waste of time because I learned something. So, and that's important. So, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir. Best of luck to you. If you have any questions, you have my email. You're welcome to send me an email at any time.
Thank you. Thank you, Genesis.
Take care, okay?
Yep, bye-bye.
Of course. Bye-bye.
That was Genesis Ortiz with the City of Santa Ana.